Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Next question.
Okay, doctor, this question is for you. I'm AS myself, and I was once involved with an SS. I didn't know until he had his first crisis in my presence. And as at then, we were neck deep into the relationship. But cut the long story short, I decided that, okay, I was going to go ahead and then not bear children at some point, adopt children. I did research, and then I found out about the CVS and some other options and all that. Then later on, I decided that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to survive this, my decision. Okay, so in the long run, I cut it short. While telling a friend about this program.
What's the question?
That's the question I want to say now. The friend said the reason he doesn't come for programs like this is because we don't give options to people, that there are options actually. We just say don't go ahead and all that. So that's why he doesn't come for events like this. So now my question is, what would you say to that person? How expensive are these options? Can we survive it and all that? That's my question.
Thank you. To add to that, there's also a question about the fact that they said medically you can test the unborn child before you have the child, so you can have the option of aborting. Can you also speak to that?
I think the young lady actually said something about CVS. That is, couples can know the genotype of their unborn child in early pregnancy. And we do that in our center, but it's not for abortions. It's so that they know in good, because let me tell you, pregnancy is a phase in a couple's life that they want to enjoy. They don't want that anxiety, so they need to put it to rest. They want to know, is this child I'm carrying SS? And if so, they come to terms with it and know that there is a medical team there that will take them under their wings and begin to institute preventive measures that will prevent all those signs and symptoms that I said occur, even before there's any sign, by giving antibiotics, preventive, prophylactic antibiotics, and vaccinations and so on. So that's there. But when people ask to what end, it's not for abortion. We'd never, ever encourage that. Never.
So are you trying to say that if I'm pregnant, or if someone is pregnant with an SS child and they find out early, you can give antibiotics that prevents them from having any symptoms when you have the baby?
Okay, it's not that the pregnant woman takes the antibiotics. The child is born.
Okay.
When the child is born, you begin to give that child antibiotics and vaccines. Okay. There's a particular bacterium called Salmonella that tends to kill them. But when you give them vaccinations against Salmonella, they do well. Those are the statistic I gave you, 100,000 that don't live up to the age of 5, they die from Salmonella, mostly. So when you give them all these preventative measures,
they live longer.
They live well.
Okay. I think there's somebody else that was raising
up. Good evening. Question is here.
Yes.
I have, first of all, I have a comment and then I have two questions. The first comment is when people, because I'm AS and I was in a couple of relationships where when we determined the genotype, we ended it. Because I would say to the person, when you give me the faith story, that if you had so much faith, change your genotype first. Use your faith to become AA. I will not do that at the expense of a child, because if you have grown up with people that had sickle cell, you will know that it is not an option. So faith is not the issue here. That's my comment. My question is that now we hear that with technology you can determine the genotype of the child by doing IVF. So there's a selection. So I wanted to ask Dr. Kishete, is that really true? Can you determine what your child's genotype will be? I'm not asking if you can check and then now do an abortion or take care of the child. I'm asking if you can determine the genotype of the child before the child is born through IVF. And then my second question is that many people don't seem to know about the combination that is AC and SC. And then the people that know make excuses to themselves that, SC is not as bad as SS. But I've had a friend that was SC and she had bad crisis. So I would like us to talk a little bit about AC and SC. Thank you.
Okay, I'll take that last question first. There are different kinds of hemoglobin. A C hemoglobin is also a sickle cell disorder, and it can combine with S plus C disease, and it is a less severe manifestation of sickle cell disorder than the S and S. Not that you can't have a severe type as well, but generally they tend to be less severe. Okay, and I told, the truth is there are hundreds and thousands, in fact, of different kinds of hemoglobin. Most of them are compatible with life and health. They don't cause any illness, and you wouldn't even know. There's something they call Philadelphia, G Philadelphia. There's one we've discovered in our center that's going to be named Lagos. There's Ibadan, there's Delta, and so on. It's countless. But the ones that cause disease are thalassemia, C, S, and so on. Then your first question about what options there are. Yes, indeed, you can. There's something you can do in vitro that is outside of the body. In vivo is within the human body, within the living body. In vitro, like, is in the laboratory. So where you manipulate the cells, the spermatozoa, and the ova and the eggs, and determine which one is carrying a gene for sickle cell, and pre-select the ones that don't have sickle cell gene, and combine them in the laboratory and produce an embryo that is AA. And in the same vein, in many parts of the world, the Western world, you can select a child who has blue eyes, tall, muscular, depending on what you want. Ethically, in ethics, because I did also medical ethics, it's not ethical. There's a very gray area that I wouldn't even want to go into. And as a Catholic, I'm Catholic, conception begins with that first spark when there's the combination of the sperm and the egg cell. So don't even talk to me about that. They say there are options, but for me, they're not options. Okay.
Thank you.
The other option is treatment of with bone marrow transplantation when someone is now full-blown SS. I had a picture of before and after, if you can put it on the screen. The child who had sickle cell, very bad crisis, up to 50 crises in a year. Wow. By the time the parents just had to send him to America for bone marrow transplant, to Italy for bone marrow transplantation. If you see the before and after pictures, not recognizable. If you can put it up for us, that's after. Before, please. That's the child before, after 1 year. There's a big difference, and the child is totally free. The child is now AA. The young man is now AA from SS. But it costs an arm and a leg. It does. It costs about $1 million.
Okay.
But we're bringing it to our own center. $1 million.
$1 million.
Yes.
Okay.
But
Praise
Nigerians
God.
can afford it. They
All
and
right,
they pay
praise
for
God.
that.
Before
we're bringing it to our center.
We have a question.
It's going to be available locally
Wow.
in Lagos at our center, and it will not cost $1 million.
Will it cost close to $1 million? Okay, question over there. Can we have one? Yeah.
Good evening. I have two questions. First is to the doctor. The earlier person asked earlier that there's SC, the other variables of genotypes and everything. I would like you to expand more on that, because I've heard things like AB, I've heard AC, I don't know. I'd like to be enlightened on that. Then secondly, I want to hear from her, because you have sickle cell and you have lived till like 47. From the profiles that I've heard all night, it looks almost impossible to, cross a certain age line. So I'd like to know firsthand, did you take any sort of medical precautions? Did you take any treatments? What was the breakthrough? Are you still feeling the pain as you used to when you were earlier? Do you still have crisis as much now that you're older? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So can we have your...
Okay, thank you for that question. Honestly, I don't know. I can't tell you that it's because I took a certain drug or some herbs that I'm doing so well, by the grace of God. Like I said, my mom was very proactive. So growing up, she did all she could, found out all she could, and made sure that I followed the rules. If the doctor said I should be in bed for 3 days, I was in bed for 3 days. She was not allowing it. Every new school term, you say that you let your son play football. I didn't get that chance. Every new school term, my mom would march me to school. She would go to the principal's office, ask to see all my teachers, and she would tell them, don't punish her, don't let her dance, don't let her march, don't let her run, don't let her do anything. Whatever she does, when I come and pick her, you tell me, I will deal with it myself. So I was the one person in school, school assembly, I don't know if they do it now, but in my day, school assembly, everybody kneel down. When they say everybody kneel down, I promise you, like 3 teachers will come and find me. Get up, go to your class, go to your class. That is how much my mother put the fear of God in them. It's like, do not let anything happen to my child. And that was how I went through school. I'm not saying this is what helped. I don't know. Like I said, it's the grace of God. But now, I must say, now, at this age, a few years ago, I started to go to the sickle cell center, and then that was hydroxyurea. For me, hydroxyurea is my magic drug. So after I'd had my child, and the crisis was intense. For many years, it was many crises. So when I started on hydroxyurea, it did reduce the incidence of crisis. It doesn't mean that I still don't get a crisis, but it's farther apart, and the episodes are not as intense as they used to be. And I also think, also with age comes some wisdom. You stop fooling yourself. You can't do everything. When it's raining, I sit in my house. When I need to. See, we've been sitting down here. I'm the only person who's drinking the water. I know myself. I must stay hydrated, and I keep to it. Nothing stops me from staying hydrated. So I think with age also just comes that you know how to treat yourself better, to not take unnecessary chances. For example, when I travel, when I get on a plane, it always brings on a crisis. So when I know I'm going to travel, I will, for like 2 days before then, I am like doubling my hydration. I read somewhere that aspirin thins the blood and helps circulation, so I'll take aspirin for like 2 days. This is just me, I'm not prescribing it, so this is what I discovered for myself. But I just really am so in tune with my body. If I'm sitting down, slight pain, I know to. And I think also, if you're lucky enough to be able to design the lifestyle that you want. I don't work a 9-to-5 job, so I'm able to work when I want to, when I can. So I at this stage, I'm a consultant, so I can pace myself. I have good days, I can work, I can have a really long day and all that. And some days I wake up and I know, I'm not feeling strong today, so I will relax, I'll stay at home, I'll work from home and, try and take that rest. So all those things are what I do, and those things help. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Doctor,
Oh, sorry. You asked something about an age limit. When I was growing up, they used to say this thing about, I think it was 18. Well, in my mind, I was 18. Honestly, when I was a teenager, I thought by 18 I was just going to drop dead. You turn 18 and you're just going to drop dead. Because people used to, how adults whisper around you, hey, if she turns 18, So I didn't really know what they were saying. I thought it meant that I was going to drop dead at 18. But I wouldn't say that. I think now, maybe over 40 is when I actually started to deal with it better. In my 20s, oh gosh, my crises were intense. In my 30s, I don't know. But in my 40s, I think I'm handling it a bit better. I think just a whole combination of how I can work and all that. But I don't think age means that you stop getting the crisis. At least for me personally, it didn't mean that I stopped getting the crisis. But I just know how to handle it better.
Thank you.
In addition to that, right from when you're young, I had a little girl tell me today, Mommy, I have my raincoat, I have my umbrella, I have my water, I have everything. So they already know, like you said, to keep hydrated, to keep away from extreme temperatures, cold, and these things that bring on crisis. But there are newer drugs now, like she mentioned, hydroxyurea, they're helping. And those things are myths, that they die by 16 or they die by 18, no. Or those arbitrary ages, those are not true. We have those, some of them who are on our board, 65, 70. there's a 93-year-old woman. Not all of them are like that, but at the same time, we must debunk this myth that they die by 16 or 17. Not at all. That's not true. There's some pictures that I would like you to show towards the end of the presentation of people who have done so well, like Banke, and who live to ripe old age. And having said that, it's not a stroll in the park. A lot of care has to be taken for them. There was a question he asked.
Yeah, he asked that he has heard of different types of...
Yes, what you're talking about are blood groups. Blood group A, blood group AB, blood group O. It's called ABO blood groups. It's different. It has nothing to do with disease or illness. It has nothing to do with sickle cell at all. It's just for you to know what your blood group is in case you require blood transfusion. Because if you transfuse another kind of blood, it can cause a reaction that can be fatal. So ABO blood grouping, everybody has. You fall under a particular group, whether you're SS or AS or whatever. So they're totally different.
Thank you. Okay, question.
Good evening, Ma. My question is for the doctor. So, talking about the bone marrow transfusion or transplant, I heard that it's for a certain age, like if you pass a certain age, that it's not possible for you to have that, so I can call it a surgery, right? Or a transplant. Okay, it's when you pass a certain age, it's not possible for you to have that transplant. That's one. And two, that's my first question. The second question is hydroxyurea. Okay, I have a friend who takes it. I don't. I'm SS. I don't take it. But I don't know. Is it really like a preventive, like folic acid? Like, is it really like a preventive? And what does it really do? And then I heard she said she had to get off it when she wanted to get pregnant. Why is that? Thank you.
Okay, very quickly with the hydroxyurea. Let me do the hydroxyurea question first. It's hydroxyurea. What it does is it raises up your level of hemoglobin F. That is the fetal hemoglobin, the kind of hemoglobin you had in your mother's womb. All of us still have it, but it's by the time you're 6 months, 7 months old, it begins to wane, and your body's own genotype begins to show up. So if you're SS, that's when SS begins to show up in your blood, and your parents begin to see that you have those swollen hands and feet. Okay? But when you give hydroxyurea, it shores up your hemoglobin F. And hemoglobin F is as efficient as A. So you begin to act like you're AS. So the symptoms of crisis and all that, if not disappear completely, will be much reduced. That's what it does. It's advised that when a woman is about to have a baby, have to get pregnant, she should go off the drug because it's been found to be toxic to the fetus. But remember that the doses you give for sickle cell are very minute, but you don't want to take chances. That's why I say go off the drugs until after pregnancy. But it's really helped a number of patients. And they also asked about age limit for bone marrow transplantation. Yes, it's true in some centers. We have 50 children have benefited from bone marrow transplantation through our center in Rome, but in the Italian Institute of Hematology. That's the protocol that they use, not older than 17. But in the UK and in America, they do for adults. And the reason is this: by the time one is older and older and older, it may have to do with how you get accustomed to your disease. You are more entrenched in your terrestrial environment, so that anything that's foreign coming into your body is rejected. So a child is less likely to reject an organ than an adult. So the older you are, the more entrenched you are with your environment.
In building relationships that last, it begins with improving one's self-esteem, looking beyond face value, and choosing the right partner. You too can have the marriage of your dreams.